Hello and welcome to my college football week 12 predictions. This is a very big week of football, especially for the Pac-12, but we shall waste no time. Let's get into it. First off, we have the Thursday game of SMU at Tulane. Now, SMU had an insane shootout game against Houston not too long ago, and then they overall have dropped many points. They are a very offensive team, and Tulane is coming off of a bad, I wouldn't say bad, but a pretty crappy loss against UCF. So, with that being said, I'm going to say this is going to be a shootout by both teams, but Tulane is going to take it. After all, it's at Tulane. Tulane just lost to UCF, so they're going to want to bounce back against a team like SMU. But from what I've seen, SMU is all offense, no defense, and I just think this game's going to be a shootout. Thursday night, 5:30 p.m., I'm going to say this game is going to be a shootout. Next up, our first, or one of the first, not actually the first, just notifications are on for it, is Miami at Clemson. I've been hating on Clemson a lot this year, and I had every right to, but Miami sucks. Miami is not beating Clemson. No, it will not happen. If it does, I'm quitting everything. It won't happen. Now, I don't agree with 19 points for Clemson. Although Miami can be a pretty bad football team and honestly could get killed in this game, I still am going to say Miami's going to put up some points because Clemson's a little overrated. And, thinking they have such an easy game, watch Miami make it close. Next up, we have Navy at UCF. Now, Navy last week was down 35-19, I believe, or 13. 35-19 or 13. Against Notre Dame, and they brought that game back to a 3-point difference, and it came down to the onside kick, and they missed it. Whereas UCF handled Tulane with ease. Now, Navy competed, but that's probably just Notre Dame's inconsistency and struggles with mistakes. Whereas UCF executed, and they dominated pretty much, even though it was only a 7-point difference. They had that game from the start, really. So I'm going to say UCF is going to take care of business against Navy. And UCF right now is speaking for their conference, and they have an opportunity to get into a very nice bowl game if they maintain a 2-loss record. They can get into the top 10, maybe into the top 10, probably like the top 12 or 13. Don't really see them being in the top 10, but they could. They could get into a nice bowl game, so they are not going to lose to Navy. Illinois at Michigan. We've seen Illinois take some bad losses recently, and overall, Illinois is unranked now. After being number 14, they kind of have fallen apart. And Michigan, on the other hand, is dominating and is getting ready for that Ohio State game. But I will not sleep on Illinois this game. Illinois was one loss for a reason. That's really hard to do in a conference like it is. They took losses to some of their hardest competition, but they also handled certain teams. Michigan State beat them, but Michigan State has really recovered since the start of the season. Purdue played Penn State down to the wire. Like, these are not bad football teams. And I don't think Illinois should get any hate for that. But it's at Michigan. Michigan is probably focusing on the Ohio State game and just is going to take care of business. Really, all they need to do against Illinois' offense is shut down the running game. And then Illinois is pretty much, stopped. But it's going to be a pretty defensive game from what I see. I could definitely be wrong. Michigan could be focusing this game instead of worrying about the Ohio State game. They could kill them. They could slaughter them. Who knows? I am not going to sleep on Illinois, though. Not going to. TCU at Baylor. Wow, I chose such a shitty logo. Wow, sorry. TCU at Baylor. I just every Big 12 team this year has taken an upset loss and gotten dominated. At least almost every single team has taken an upset loss and been killed. Almost every team. And that includes Baylor. But I think this is going to be a loss for TCU. Now, I had TCU losing to Texas. Yes, I was wrong, and I'm putting them under the bus again just because I don't believe this can keep going. TCU's a good football team, do not get me wrong, but I'm not going to sleep on Baylor. Yes, Baylor just got killed, but that seems to be a trend in the Big 12, so I'm not going to look at that and use that as some of my major reasoning. I'm going to look at TCU going into Baylor, and I'm going to be like, dude, this TCU team has so much hype behind them. Baylor's getting no respect. This is going to be a really hard game for TCU, and I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off, if I'm being perfectly honest. And we can say, oh, they just went to the road and beat Texas. Texas did not look like Texas. They looked pretty bad in that game. Now, you could say it was TCU's defense, but you can also argue that it was Texas' offense that was struggling to do anything. Because there's been a lot of games where TCU's defense has very, very struggled. They have struggled greatly. So I'm going to say Baylor's going to take this one, handing TCU their first loss. Austin Peay at Alabama. Don't know who Austin Peay is. I meant to check their schedule out, check who their losses are against. It's just a bunch of random ass schools. I think this is like one of the tiny schools. Not like a, yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. I think they're just going to get killed. There's not much to be said here. It's a free game for Alabama. Louisiana at Florida State. Oh, also, because I just saw this, I tried my hardest to correct every score or to correct every rank, because right now when I look at the schedule on ESPN, it gives me the ranks from last week, even though the rankings are updated and different. So if I fucked up a rank, don't kill me. But anyways, Louisiana at Florida State. Florida State, dude, is being, personally, I think they're being slept on. They have taken some losses, some personally, I think, bad losses, like that loss to NC State, which was at NC State and is a 2-point loss, but they lost to Wake Forest at home. That is just a bad loss. They lost to Clemson at home. They lost to NC State on the road. Those were their 3 losses. But we also have to acknowledge the fact that they are one of LSU's 2 losses. Without that loss, LSU is most likely number 5 right now. And ever since those 3 losses, I don't know what happened in those 3 games. Those were the 3 toughest games of their schedule other than LSU. Florida State has killed and dominated. 41-16 against Georgia Tech, 45-3 at Miami, and 38-3 at Syracuse. They have 2 games left, which is, of course, this game, Louisiana at Florida State, and then Florida at Florida State. They can win out and go 9-3. And Florida State, man, had they not taken a bad loss to NC State or to Wake Forest, Clemson is a bad loss, but Clemson's also number 10. Florida State would be a very highly ranked team right now because they have definitely changed something. Don't know what it is, but they are slaughtering teams. So I'm going to say that's no exception today. Now, I don't know who this Louisiana team is, but due to the fact that I don't know who they are, I don't know a whole lot about them, I'm going to give them 13 points, but that honestly might be an overstatement. They could not even put up a point. I mean, Florida State could drop 52. Who knows? Florida State has been dominating. Kansas State at West Virginia. If I could back out here. Kansas State took a bad loss to Baylor. Or I'm sorry, they just killed Baylor. I got that mixed up. They just killed Baylor at Baylor. That's a great win for Kansas State. Now, I think Kansas State killed them, but I don't think their rank moved. I think they're still number 19. Or no. Wait, what? I don't know. Maybe they were like number 23 or something like that. I don't know. But Kansas State is playing West Virginia at West Virginia. And, we just saw West Virginia beat Oklahoma. Yeah, in a very, I'm pretty sure it was raining, the whole time. And it was a pretty yucky game to watch. It was very fun to watch, but also very yucky. But Kansas State at West Virginia, Kansas State just dominated. We saw Kansas State kill Oklahoma State, but then go play Texas on the road and lose. Or actually at home and lose. So I'm going to say that trend continues. I'm going to say West Virginia it's at home against number 19 Kansas State. West Virginia can win their next 2 games and get into a bowl game. This is going to be an extremely hyped up game for West Virginia. And I think Kansas State's going to lose. I think West Virginia is being slept on this season. Yes, we've seen them get killed. We've seen them lose some pretty bad games. But I definitely feel like West Virginia is an ASU. They are being slept on. Let's remember, they took Kansas into overtime. They lost by 7 points at Pittsburgh. They lost by 18 at Texas. They beat Baylor. They got killed by Texas Tech, but so has every other team. They played TCU 41-31. Iowa State somehow killed them, although I also believe Iowa State is a very slept-on team. And this week they kind of bounced back and upset, I'd say, Oklahoma. And they have an opportunity here. They've got tough 2 teams. They've got Kansas State at home and then Oklahoma State on the road. I don't know when Sanders is coming back into play, but if Sanders does come back into play, Oklahoma State's right back up there in the top 10 football teams, because once they lost Sanders, they sucked. But when they had him, they were one loss to TCU, who's number 4 and undefeated. So, but I'm just saying, West Virginia is a very slept-on team right now, and this is all for a bowl game right now. So I think West Virginia is going to be able to do it. Boston College at Notre Dame. We just saw Boston College pull off the victory against NC State. Now, I actually did not think that Boston College was going to win this, although I definitely felt like Boston College was like an ASU, where they're just 3-7, but they're just they play teams good, and then they just also suck. They can play a team good. They have the potential behind them, but there's something wrong. There's a missing link. They managed to beat North Carolina State just like ASU managed to beat Washington. They're in the same boat. But Notre Dame, I honestly wanted to give this one to Boston College, but I'm going to give it to Notre Dame because Notre Dame is they really need to win out if they want to save this season. It's already such a yucky, terrible season for Notre Dame, but they have taken some very good wins this season. They barely got out of Navy with their pants down, but I think they'll be able to take Boston College. Georgia at Kentucky. Last week I gave Mississippi State the road game, and boy was I wrong. And we just saw Kentucky lose to Vanderbilt, who I also think Vanderbilt is a slept-on team, but I'm going to say Georgia's going to kill Kentucky. They have not looked like they've looked from the beginning of the season. If I'm being real, at the beginning of the season, I feel like they looked a lot better than they did now. So I don't know what it is, whether it's injuries or maybe they were fluking. I don't know. But Georgia has a fine opportunity to win out, go to the SEC championship, win the national championship, and go undefeated all season. And I don't think Kentucky poses a threat right now, unless Georgia is just so high and confident and they're looking to the future. Kentucky can be a hard place to play at, but Kentucky also sucks. So, Ohio State at Maryland. Now, hear me out. Maryland just got their butts beat. Maryland just got their butts beat by Penn State. Yes, that is true. It was at Penn State, a freezing cold game, which Maryland is used to, so that's not really an excuse. But at Penn State, they know Maryland is 6-3. That's a tough game to play. And so far, Penn State has got to win out if they want to get a nice bowl game in. They're not going to the Big Ten championship. They've already lost to the two teams that they needed to beat at least one of. They lost them. So Penn State needs to win out to go to a nice bowl game. That's what they're focusing. But we saw Maryland play Michigan to 7 points at Michigan. Maryland has played many teams good. Do not sleep on Maryland. I'm going to say Ohio State's going to take it because Ohio State is 10-0. They have a fantastic offense, but their defense is a weak link. They struggle defensively sometimes. And Maryland, I feel like Maryland, this game will be close. That's all I have to say. And if it isn't, laugh at me then. Penn State at Rutgers. Nothing to be said here. The Rutgers are terrible. I think they started off like 3-0 as well. They started off like 3-0. They suck. They're bad. Penn State needs to win out, so Penn State is going to dominate every team they can to make their rank go higher, just like what Tennessee's doing. And yeah, Georgia Tech at North Carolina. North Carolina is 9-1. They are looking at a fine ACC championship in which they can actually beat Clemson. There is opportunity to beat Clemson. I don't know where it's located, but there is opportunity to beat Clemson there. And North Carolina is, since they've lost to Notre Dame, who Notre Dame is bouncing back, North Carolina hasn't lost a game in the ACC. Now, the ACC, I believe, is heavily overrated, but North Carolina, let's see. I remember they played a team. They played a team close last week. They played Wake Forest, and they won it. I did not expect North Carolina to win that game. I thought Wake Forest was going to win that game. That's an impressive victory for me. Now, Wake Forest has been kind of all over the place and whatnot, but I think that is a very impressive win. But I would like to make notice that North Carolina has barely won a lot of their games this year. Like, they won by 2 points at Appalachian State. They won by 7 points at Georgia State. They lost to Notre Dame, killed Virginia Tech. Then they beat Miami by 3 points. They beat Duke by 3 points. They kind of beat the crap out of Pitt, which is an impressive victory. But then they won by 3 points to Virginia, and then they won by 2 points to Wake Forest. So this North Carolina team, to me, is heavily overrated, but they still have a grand opportunity to get into a nice bowl game. Whether they win it or not, they have a grand opportunity. On the ESPN app, it says North Carolina is in. So I don't know if that means North Carolina can lose every game from here and they will still be in. But yeah, North Carolina needs to win this one. They need to take this one by storm, which should not be hard. But they will have to play NC State at home. That's a rivalry. That'll be a very high game for North Carolina to take home. They'll have a lot of fans there, but that's going to be a tough one. Tennessee at South Carolina. I'm going to say Tennessee's going to kill South Carolina because I've given South Carolina games. I've given them hype, and they have sucked. They have really, really sucked. There's a reason Georgia killed them, and it's because they're not competition. They are bad. And I think Tennessee really, really needs to kill another SEC team, whether it's by 25 points or they drop 66 points on them to make them look better. I think Tennessee is going to kill them. They're going to focus every little game to try and get into that top 4 because that's just what they got to do. Ole Miss at Arkansas. I'm going to say Arkansas is going to take this one. Now, I know I gave Arkansas the game against LSU, and I was wrong. I was really close to being right, but overall I was wrong. But Ole Miss just lost to Alabama. I have thought Ole Miss was a little overrated. Now I thought I gave them the Alabama game, and I was pretty much, that was the determiner for me, was if Ole Miss beats Alabama, I'm giving Ole Miss Arkansas. But if they don't, I'm going to give Arkansas Ole Miss, because I'm going to say they're going to take it into overtime. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a great game, but Arkansas will take it. This could be a way low-scoring game, but I definitely think that Arkansas is going to shape it up offensively. And the biggest game of the week, actually tied for the biggest game of the week, is USC at UCLA. This is a major game. Like, this is going to be a massive game. This is going to probably be the college football game of the year, unless it is a blowout. Number 8 USC at number 12 UCLA. Both teams fighting for a spot in the Pac-12 championship. Major rivalry. Both teams are in the same state, located close. This is going to be a big game. And I have USC winning it. UCLA just lost to U of A's offense. We saw USC beat U of A's offense. Now, it is at UCLA, but the thing is they're so close in relation to each other that it's pretty much a mixed crowd anyways. The home field advantage in this game is not there. It is a mixed crowd. So, yes, they're on their own turf, but it's still a very mixed crowd. It's going to be loud for both teams. It's just going to come down to who is better and who is worse. And I think USC, offensively, I think USC is better than UCLA. Both teams struggled greatly defensively, which is why I have it being a shootout. And honestly, this is a little biased. I have USC winning this because I want USC to win this. The Pac-12 is my conference, and every team just blew their Pac-12, their opportunity to appear in the national championship. If USC wins out and wins the Pac-12 championship, there is high opportunity that USC gets in. And they're our last hope. That is it. They are our last hope. Unless somehow a 2-loss team is able to get into the into the college football playoff, it will most likely be Utah. But I have USC winning this game, and I hope they do. UAB at LSU. I don't know anything about this school. I think LSU is gonna kill them because LSU really needs to show some life on the offense. They didn't last week, and it was all defense last week against Arkansas. They did not show up offensively, but they took the dub nonetheless. And I think they just need to, explain to their crowd that there is still an offense. Remember the Alabama game? We're here. So I think they'll beat the crap out of them. Colorado at Washington. Washington should kill them. Giving Colorado 16 because Colorado has put up like 10 points every game and then shit the bed. So maybe they'll score some field goals here and there. But Washington should kill them. Utah at Oregon. This is tied for the biggest game. Fuck, I showed the score. All right, you guys already know. I think Oregon's going to take this one, man. Utah at Oregon. This game, I think, is played I'm not sure if it is, but I think it's played every year. Oregon was shut down last year by Utah. And then they were slaughtered, and then they were slaughtered again. And I think Utah is just not going to be able to do it. Oregon just took a terrible loss to Washington. They have lost their playoff appearance, and they're fucking pissed. Bo Nix and his Ducks are going to go up against Cameron Rising and his Utes. And this is going to be a clash of the ages. That's why I'm saying, this week is the Pac-12's week. This is the week for the Pac-12 to make some fucking dough off of their games. But this is probably the game of the week. Now, the USC-UCLA is arguably more important because at least USC is one loss. But this game is arguably just as important. There are 2 games this week that are deciders in who gets to play in the Pac-12 championship. Because now we're just a giant big old conference. There is no North and South anymore. We are just a giant happy family. So it is an all-out battle. Think about it. Utah has beaten USC. Oregon has beaten UCLA. UCLA has beaten Utah. It's like all over the place right now. This can tie so many different ways. It is a major week of football for the Pac-12, but I think Oregon is going to take out Utah. And they are going to get into a nice bowl game. Because I thought Oregon was terrible. They barely escaped Washington State, and I was like, oh, damn it. Oregon needs to lose a game because they suck, but they've really bounced back and looked pretty dominant. And I just really hope that I'm saying this and we go into our bowl games and we win our bowl games this year and don't get killed. Because if we get killed, that'll be so embarrassing that we just butt heads with each other all year. It has been such a fantastic season, though, for the Pac-12 teams. I mean, seriously, we have so many ranked Pac-12 teams right now. We have USC, Oregon, Utah, UCLA, Washington, Oregon State, all ranked right now. And maybe at the end of the season now, Washington State is 4 losses, but if they win out and win their bowl game, maybe they could get the number 25 spot. But there's so many Pac-12 teams ranked right now. It is such a glorious conference right now. Even though ASU is one of the worst teams in it, it is such a glorious conference. And oh yeah, I have these games because I had to actually find these games. I don't think Oregon State's number 25. They are number 25. There is no bias this week after the way ASU played at Washington State. And I don't even know if TB is going to be back in. He got hurt. So it's going to be a shootout because Arizona State has no defense. We're all offense, even though our offense is mediocre. And Oregon State is just going to run the ball all over us, whether their running back is good or not. We can't stop the rush. Our defense sucks. So I'm going to give this one to Oregon State. Although I do think ASU could win this game, I'm still going to give it to Oregon State. Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. This is a major rivalry, but it has kind of fallen off the charts this year. This was looking at the start of the season like it was going to be a major fucking rivalry. I mean, remember, Oklahoma was like number 6, and Oklahoma State was like number 10. So this was looking like it was going to be a big-time battle, but it's kind of fallen off. Both teams have kind of collapsed this season. And I have Oklahoma taking it because I don't know if Sanders is in or not, but nonetheless, it's at Oklahoma. It's a very difficult place to play at. And, yeah, I don't know if Oklahoma State's going to win it. Major week of football, though. Major week. If you made it this far, I love you. Leave a like and subscribe because it's very epic. And that is all for me. Adios.